The TWA commander is heading to southern Africa, where white colonizers were expelled 30 years ago, and where a whole generation of free people has grown up. This is where huge diamonds were mined, which today shine on the most expensive jewelry in the world. Gold and platinum were also taken from here. Then rare elements were found here, which are essential, the creation of modern electric vehicles. So with such incredible resources in independent Africa, how do you manage to live in such poverty? Africa is a dream, where you walk on golden sands and diamonds are all around. Lost among the stones. Reach out your hand and they are yours. You will become fabulously rich. You will make it to the very top. Thousands of people from all over the world came here chasing this dream. Some managed to make a fortune here and rise to prominence. The rest just vanished in these sands.
A beautiful country. Super duper cool. And beautiful, right? Cool.
This is Ron X Special Forces of the South African Army. And this is Andre, also a former soldier. Our guides through southern Africa.
We are in the northwestern province of South Africa. Here, people mainly earn money from the mines. There's gold here, and closer to Namibia there are diamonds. Farmers raise livestock, and on those same plots they dig.
How is that?
Yes, in South Africa, a person can get a license to mine for minerals. In other countries, everything belongs to the governments. Farmers here are extraordinarily wealthy, but they live very reclusively.
Because they have diamonds.
Diamonds. And also because they are good farmers.
The first diamond here was found by a 15-year-old boy from a family of white farmers. It was in 1866. The stone was lying on the bank of the Orange River. The river washed diamonds out of volcanic rocks and carried them to the ocean. When news of the find spread, farmers abandoned their farms and set off in search of the sparkling stones. Then, not far from here, in Kimberley, they found the famous kimberlite, diamond pipes, and it all took off. In South Africa, they found diamond deposits. There have never been so many of them. In just a few years, they dug up more than in India, throughout all time. They are still being found today.
Some of my acquaintances from these parts had a lucky day, and they found a diamond weighing a ton of carats. And that provided for their family for a lifetime.
So they just found them in the sand?
In the gravel, 2 meters underground. But how much money do you need to spend to find it?
Thanks to these mines, the entire Western world thrived. They built South Africa itself. From the gold miners' settlement, Johannesburg emerged. Universities were opening because the mines needed specialists. To transport the raw materials, roads and bridges were needed. They built them up. Everything to extract these riches from beneath the ground. But if you are so rich, why are you so poor? These towns were built around the mines or near large farms. Today they look distressed. The pandemic dragged the mines down, and they took everything around them with them. The streets are sparsely populated. The only activity is at the bank branches.
It's the end of the month, and today is Friday.
So they all came for salaries?
Yes, their salaries and benefits. That's why the ANC is still in power. Because they pay them benefits every month.
How much do they get?
It depends how many children they have. They have 3 to 4 kids in total, as a family to get more. I think they get paid approximately 1,200 rand.
Per month?
Yes.
A little...
Well, let's say about $100 American a month. Plus there's some side work here and there.
It's hard to understand you have rich land, but it doesn't belong to you. You have some minerals there, but they don't belong to you. And you have something that belongs to you, but you don't have the money to develop it. Well, that's some kind of misfortune.
The land is generally owned by white farmers. The mere fact of owning natural resources doesn't mean that ordinary people will benefit from it in any way. This is called the resource curse, because there are land rights that go back centuries, and there are international companies that are accountable to their shareholders. Usually these are pension funds from wealthy countries, and their goal is maximum profit.
Raymond Durkheim studied the resources of the African continent for decades. He's a geophysicist, an author, hundreds of scientific works. We're talking about why underground riches attract people.
In South Africa, among the platinum mines, there are vast areas of slums. People go there hoping to find work in the mine, or maybe get a job in a store, a car repair shop, a diner, or a hair salon. The mines themselves, they attract people.
And that's when these wild scenes emerge. In the midst of the Golden Mountains, endless rows of slums. In these lands there are 90% of the world's platinum reserves, a lot of gold. But affordable housing looks like this. People live in huts like these in South Africa. 1 million families.
This is where it all begins. They buy a piece of land and start putting up these zinc things. It's metal zinc from the roofs. They put up a zinc house, and off it went. Too many people and they keep coming. More and more. And if they come onto your land and start building there, good luck getting them out.
It's not necessary. Unemployed. Miners can live here. By law, if they don't settle in the dormitory near the mine, they're entitled to a housing allowance. And they often use it to build a zinc shack. Even if they get a raise, many prefer to buy a satellite dish and continue living in the slums. This is an enchanted place there. This charm of gold and diamonds. People's eyes light up, and it still has that effect. You understand that you just dug this up. There, in one spot, I dug up a diamond, a huge diamond. You can find gold with two. It's complicated, but possible. These are people who still live, as if enchanted by the allure of diamonds and the incredible wealth of gold. And it's strange because you see all around some poor villages, abandoned buildings, some shacks, God knows what. You constantly live a bit in your imagination because you picture another life, what it could be like.
Oh my God, what a mess.
They just don't care.
They throw trash everywhere.
And the wind takes it away.
No one really knows how the profits of mining companies are distributed. This data is classified. By their own reports, the companies pay local communities in South Africa $125 million a year, but they earn hundreds of times more. Companies are dragging entire regions along with them, but it's a dead grip because outsiders won't dare to come here.
Mining companies generally agree that they provide local jobs, schools, and hospitals, but you take on the responsibility for an entire region and become its owner. And this in turn makes the region less attractive to investors. Investors would like to avoid such social responsibility.
Mines are developing everything around them. They are building bridges, universities, they are lifting the country up, but they are doing it for themselves, for the mines. In other words, mines give rise to more mines. You have this resource dependency, and it just keeps getting worse. Even though it seems like you're developing as a resource country. And it's not a dead end, but it's close. Incredible places. Here, the largest diamond in human history was found. Here, in the search for gold, they dug the deepest mine on our planet. 4 kilometers deep. But this hasn't made the South Africans themselves richer. 63% of citizens live in poverty, and on average, incomes are even lower than they were 10 years ago. Well, you missed the the diamond and gold rush, but the 21st century gives Africa another one. A huge opportunity that cannot be missed. At the beginning of this century, Europe, and then China, announced plans for a green transition. They will give up burning coal, oil, and gas for clean energy from the sun, wind, and tides. But for that, a lot of copper will be needed, as well as cobalt, lithium, and much more. And all of this is in Africa, and sometimes only in Africa.
To achieve the green transition to renewable energy sources, rare and unusual minerals will be needed. For the creation of wind turbines, elements of solar panels. These are rare earth elements. Africa has large reserves of such minerals, at least because geological exploration was weak here.
Here it is, the chance to escape poverty. And it seems like everything is there, power, opportunities. Will it work this time? We're heading to Namibia for the answer, which was one of the first to understand the grand opportunities that the green transition opens up. But actually, from this map, I can see that there are not many towns and villages around. Almost nothing, as in the middle of nothing.
You mean in Namibia?
Namibia has only 3 million people, and this country should become not just a regional, but a global leader in green energy. This is what the president of Namibia, Hage Geingob, said. He constantly convinced the leadership of the European Union, and Europe got involved. Investment plans have been drawn up for 10 billion euros. In general, at least one more Dubai was supposed to grow here.
There are still plenty of baby animals here. Leopards, snakes, scorpions. And the weather keeps changing. During the day, it's terrible heat. And at night, it's freezing cold. Less than zero, easy.
Plenty in sands, scorpions, but who was stopped by that? 100 years ago, during the diamond rush, there was no shortage of newcomers. To stop the wild mining, they created a restricted zone right behind the road. You still can't get in there, although almost all the gemstones have been taken out of there.
There are certain areas where entry is prohibited.
Is it because they are privately owned?
It's because of the diamonds. The territory is controlled by the state and companies.
No roads, no access.
You can drive there in an off-road vehicle.
Is that restricted area really being guarded?
They are keeping an eye on it. But still, it's a very vast area.
On the left, there are abandoned houses and entire towns. They were built solidly. People thought that diamond mining would last a long time. There is also a completely unrealistic railway that is covered with sand. They say that a train sometimes passes along it, but we have never seen one. When the diamonds ran out, it was as if these cities had their oxygen cut off. Life in them came to a halt, and today we only see their dried up shells.
Look over there on the left. There's also an old mine. Now it's abandoned and looks like a haunted house. And over there, there's a water tank.
There's also a train station there.
Yes, that's how it was done at first. They set up the mine and built a railway to it. So the water was probably for the steam locomotives that used to go back and forth.
The names of the stations remind us that Namibia was a German colony in the early 20th century. Here we have Luderitz, the hope of a green economy. A small port with a population of 17,000 people, a patch of land inhabited by people. Further ahead, it's completely desolate. For 400 kilometers ahead, not a single living soul. On the left, the ocean. On the right, the desert. And the terrifying, piercing wind that makes it cold even during the day. A cursed place, dangerous shores. There's always fog and powerful ocean currents. Perfect for shipwrecks. And no one will come to help. The nearest ports are far away. This ship was washed ashore not long ago in 2008. Around, there are still thousands of shipwrecks. This is the Skeleton Coast. They say about these places, God created this land when he was angry. In the 21st century, it turned out that God's anger can be monetized.
The Maritime Museum isn't open yet, unfortunately, but that's going to be something that's really worth seeing.
We're talking to Phil Balhau, the mayor of Luderitz, about how lucky Namibia is. Instead of extracting minerals from the ground, it will trade in air, wind, and solar energy. And there's plenty of that in Luderitz.
We are in third place in the world for the potential of wind and solar energy development.
And what are the other two?
The Himalayas, where it's impossible to build anything, and the second place is Chile. Chile is doing something, but there's some political instability that gets in the way.
And now imagine that this sleepy little town turns into a global energy hub. It's a mess. There are wind turbines and solar panels. Here's the desalination plant. There are huge pipelines here. A green ammonia production plant. The port will need to be expanded to accommodate larger vessels. And what a great touch. Instead of going around Africa from the east and passing through the Gulf of Aden, where the Houthis are launching rockets, tankers will head to Europe along the western coast of Africa. A huge boost to security.
I think this will be a revolution. A boom in maritime transport, air travel, huge equipment supplies, and road transport. The effect will be felt everywhere, throughout Namibia.
The project has a solid sponsor, Germany. In Berlin, they call this direction strategic. Of course. Namibia will free Europe from its dependence on Russian gas. We just need to find about 10 billion euros. That's almost the entire GDP of Namibia. And while the strategists were drawing up numbers and diagrams, suddenly the new reality reminded us of itself. We are in independent Africa. The leaders of the Nama and Herero tribes opposed the project. They reminded Germany that when it was in charge here in 1904, it committed genocide, brutally suppressing the uprising of these tribes, driving them into the desert to certain death, while others were sent to concentration camps. The first concentration camps of the 20th century, and as luck would have it, one of them was right in Luderitz, on the island of Kulje, where the renovation is planned for the Green Project. Here, several thousand people died from hard labor, from hunger, and from this piercing wind. They actually built this city. The prisoners built the railway. They built the mines. And now not even camp dust remains of them, because the bodies were thrown into the ocean, where they were eaten. Sharks. For many decades, this story didn't interest anyone. The camp fell apart on its own. Only stones remain. Then they set up a campsite in its place. People were grilling barbecues, setting up toilets on the bones. In general, that's how it all went. Until recently. But in 2018, the European Union tightened the regulations for the transition to green energy. And something had to be done to comply with these regulations. It might have just been a coincidence, but in the same year, Germany acknowledged that it had committed genocide. Tribes, Nama and Herero. It promised the country compensation of 1 billion euros. German companies started coming to Namibia more frequently. Handshakes, contracts. It seemed like the past was behind us. Forward to green energy. But that wasn't the case. Representatives of the tribes stated that no one had entered into negotiations with them. They are not satisfied with the amount of compensation, and in general, they are against the construction on Shark Island. And then other details emerged. It turns out that the country's president, the main champion of green energy, made a surprising choice of international partner for the Hyphen Energy Consortium project, and did not consult with local authorities. And they had already made agreements with other well-known firms on favorable terms, and now those agreements were going up in smoke. The confusion was expressed by none other than the current mayor, Phil Balu, when he was in the opposition. Are you still surprised today?
Honestly, yes. We had meetings with respected companies that are working on green hydrogen projects around the world. And when we were informed that the company Hyphen had won, it was a shock for us. We never met with them. They had no obvious experience in this field. Then we had a meeting with Hyphen and saw that they are part of our community. But before that, we had our own calculations on who would become the winner and what support we would receive from them. Unfortunately, we don't expect that from Hyphen. But we are doing what we can and working closely with Hyphen.
So, a global project that could have changed the fate of Namibia and the entire world was, for unclear reasons, given to a company that does not even have practical experience. And how was it supposed to attract investments of 10 billion? And that's very strange. Or was it originally a fantasy to attract foreign money? President Hage Geingob will no longer be able to answer these questions. He passed away in February 2024. And it turned out that there are no other enthusiasts for the green project in Namibia. The green transition is running out of steam. Construction is slowing down. The agencies can't agree on the laws. Officials are fighting for control over foreign investments that don't even exist yet. It was planned that by 2030, Europe would be buying hundreds of thousands of tons of green ammonia from Namibia. In reality, Namibia hasn't produced a single kilogram to date. People are envisioning how in 10 years this place will simply be a global hub for green energy. We will have millions, billions. There will be jobs here. I doubt that will happen. The scale is huge, billions, tens of billions of dollars in plans. But the way it's actually moving suggests that it could turn into a giant collapse. He was drinking money. It was supposed to start this year, something with their construction, but there's nothing. These are all plans built on sand again. It will happen when it happens, deadlines pass, still nothing. But even if the construction of the century had taken place, it would probably have passed by the local residents. The green project needs engineers and chemical technologists. Specialized organizations in Namibia have stated that there are no such specialists in the country, and investors will likely bring in their own personnel. Work is very much needed here. In Namibia, 400,000 people live in slums, including in Lodridge. At a slum bar with a popular name around here, AK-47. We meet Michael. His family lived in a village in northern Namibia, but there was a drought. Farmers were going bankrupt, and the family moved here.
Managed to find a job? No permanent job at all. Sometimes I manage to grab some temporary work at the water company or a shipping company. They call, they summon, if they have something available. No, not really. Which temporary work? When the ships come in and dock for loading, we load them up, and then they leave. Where do you get water? Do you have to pay for water? You have to pay with a card. Buy a card. And how much do you have to pay? 300. But you can put in as much as you want. At least 10 Namibian dollars. How long have you been living here? He's been here for 30 years. 30 years here. How old were you when you came here? Twenty-six. He's an old man. Has this place changed during this time? Nothing changes here. It's always like that.
With this new green hydrogen project, do you have hope of finding a job?
We've heard about him. Maybe later something will come up.
What is your specialty?
I can work as a welder.
One of the main challenges for Africa has been the explosive population growth. In the 1960s, the population of South Africa tripled, and in other countries it grew even more. And one of the consequences of colonialism and apartheid is the low level of mass education. And at the large mines that produce the bulk of the raw materials, it's very complicated. Equipment. And it's unlikely that a lot of unemployed youth will be able to find jobs there.
Does anyone in city officials come see you? No, never do. Never, ever, ever. What are those flags?
These are the flags of political parties.
Are you here to vote?
Yes.
For
SWAPO.
And why for SWAPO?
It's the ruling party, and I prefer them.
At this moment, we receive information from our agent in the slums that it's time to stop filming. It's dangerous to stay here longer.
What did you think? What did you even bring? Well, take a look. What are you saying? He's friendly, I'm friendly. They're saying those who aren't friendly are waking up. It's good they haven't woken up. He will be worried. I told him I'm giving him 100. I gave it carefully. You'll help, right? You'll let me know when it happens. It's like that. Well, yes, it's already coming together better for you. It's already happened. There's a ringing inside. What's going on here? They walk with cameras.
For these people, history always goes in circles. Grandiose construction projects are starting nearby, tapping into unprecedented resources. Someone comes, takes the profit, and leaves. It was the same 100 years ago, when an amazing town, Kolmanskop. Today it's a ghost town located 10 kilometers from Ludritz. It was built in the desert by white settlers, diamond miners. It's an amazing story about how a mine gave birth to an entire city and then killed it. It was probably the most brilliant city in all of Africa. Extravagant, magical, unimaginable. Even its ruins look majestic today. The first diamond was found here in 1908. By chance, on the railway sleepers. And just a few years later, they were mining 1 million carats of diamonds a year here. That's 12% of the world's diamond production. The town of Pesca appeared instantly. Just a moment ago, there was no one here, and now there are already 1,500 residents. They brought everything they could from the civilized world to the remote desert. There was electricity, streetlights here. They were almost nowhere else in the world. The first X-ray machine in the southern hemisphere. It was needed to X-ray the hired workers. Did they swallow anything at work, any diamond, to steal it? There was bowling. There was a casino. It was specially built in Germany, loaded onto a ship, brought here, and then reassembled. There wasn't even any water here. It had to be brought in from South Africa. It's a bit pricey, but not for diamond miners. They made ice for entertainment from this water. The city had no shortage of entertainment. Stars from the opera scene in Europe came here. Diamonds could buy absolutely anything. Fragmented memories of that life remain, but they leave a completely crazy impression. Parties with champagne and caviar would stretch on for several days. The police kept order on camels, and one family got themselves a pet ostrich, which they harnessed to a cart. Around Christmas, he was pulling a sleigh instead of a reindeer. Many wanted to touch such a life. Ron's ancestors, our guide from South Africa, also took part in a similar frenzy, just not in the diamond one, but in the gold one.
But beautiful place, I love it. It's a beautiful country.
When I was 4 or 5 years old, I came here with my parents. I remember being told about diamonds, about the people who came here in search of wealth. My family is from Scotland, and I have ancestors from Germany. My great-great-grandfather was involved in gold mining. He bought gold from the prospectors, melted it down, made gold jewelry, and sold it in Johannesburg.
What years was that?
Around the 1830s.
But then you no longer dealt with gold.
No. My grandfather got into farming, while my other grandfather from the German side worked in the police. So we no longer touch the mines.
They made a fortune on the first most accessible diamonds here. Then the stones became harder to find, and mining them turned into hard work. And finally, hundreds of kilometers from here, in South Africa, they found a richer deposit. And that was the decisive blow. The last family left Kolmanskop in the early 50s. You can imagine the feelings people had when leaving a city where someone had spent their entire life. The Diamond City with its incredible stories has faded into the past. In Namibia, only this sand and these walls remain. Now, not far from here, they plan to build another city, but this time for the participants of the hydrogen project. A cursed place. If something goes wrong with this hydrogen project, we'll have 2 ghost towns in the desert. Ghostly counterparts. Monuments to single industry towns, erected in the name of some human idea. That didn't pan out. Yeah, the idea of pulling money out of thin air was a good one. Probably even too good. That's why many wanted to take part in it. The cost of independence, every group has a voice, and that voice needs to be heard. In general, everything is stuck in approvals. But Namibia has more than just sun and wind. It has lithium, which is absolutely essential for battery production. And we are heading north to the village of Uiz, where lithium ore is extracted. This is the gold of the 21st century. How will the locals manage them? On the road, we increasingly see flags of China and trucks with hieroglyphs. China has firmly established itself in Africa. He produces electric cars, invests in wind energy, and he really needs African resources. Once, in the 60s, when China was poor, it was an ally of Africans in the anti-imperialist struggle. Now China has become wealthy. It's a bit of an empire itself, and it operates on a scale that the West can only dream of. Because behind Chinese businesses stands the state, and there's no turning back for them.
In the last 20 years, China has become a major player. China has shaken up the entire industry. It turned out that business could be done differently. In the past, Western corporations worked to maximize their profits. And Chinese companies, including state-owned ones, were driven not so much by the desire for profit, but by the need to ensure uninterrupted supplies of strategic raw materials and to expand China's influence over the rest of the world. And that's perfectly legal. That's what many nations and empires have done in the past. This is neither surprising nor shocking. Our world has just changed like that.
Here we are passing by the Husap uranium mine, a great example. A Chinese company bought it in 2012. And since then, the Chinese have been continuously developing it. The plan is to make it the second largest uranium mine in the world. The path out of poverty is never instant. China has been rising in recent years, 50, and they also worked there, like crazy. For pennies on the dollar, China still produced these guys for the rest of the world. They sit on resources that just disappear and nothing is left. It's such a vicious cycle. And this vicious circle is connected with the fact that you have a resource curse, which on the one hand, you are rich, on the other hand, you give away for next to nothing, and you have nothing left. But why exactly for a pittance? Because the higher the degree of processing, the higher the profit margin. And they extract raw materials from Africa, the cheapest kind. But in Uise, a truly incredible story happened. They practically gave away an entire lithium mine to foreigners for free. And here's how it happened.
It's not easy being local hero, small community.
Yes, gentlemen, this is the UIS. We have large reserves here. Tin, tantalum. Recently, they found lithium.
Jimmy, an activist from the village of Uise. There are many artisans in the area who collect minerals on the community's land. But in 2022, strangers showed up here.
We went to our usual spot to mine lithium, and out of nowhere, 10 Chinese. And they started asking what we were doing here. We said we're doing artisanal mining. They said to get out of here or we'll call the police. The Chinese indeed claimed that they bought all this land from the local chief for a significant amount of money. They called the police and forced us to leave.
How much lithium did you collect? Where are the bags of lithium you collected?
They ripped open the bags and scattered everything around. Heartless people. They don't know how to share. This is a huge area where minerals were collected by miners, individuals. Here are the people who own this land. And you chase them away like dogs.
And what happened next? Did you go back there afterwards?
I didn't go there anymore.
Unfortunately, they did not win back.
So how do you make a living now?
I work as a water carrier. There aren't many sources around here. I collect water from the wells and deliver it to people. I don't make much money. It's not enough to live on.
There is a law in Namibia. Even if a company has obtained a license for development, it must get the landowner's consent. In this case, the traditional leader of the local community. The residents started to figure out who had come here. And it turned out to be the Chinese company, Sinfan Investment. And the company had a document, a consent, signed by the local chief.
They didn't find lithium there yesterday. Our elders used to mine there. And then these companies with exploration licenses came. All these things that the locals had no idea about.
The Namibian newspaper found out how the Chinese company ended up here. There is a loophole in the law that allows local artisans to engage in small-scale fishing. And so, one Namibian company registered 10 plots for manual fishing. I paid $160 for this. And now pay attention. The head of this company turns out to be the cousin of the advisor to the Ministry of Natural Resources. The advisor's brother sells a stake in the company to the Chinese Pomo, and they start not just small-scale, but quite industrial lithium extraction there. The Chinese paid $1 million for a stake in the company. Out of that, $300,000 went directly to the advisor's brother. But that money is gone. The state ended up with its $160. And so from this mine, in the UIS area, the Chinese company exported 55,000 tons of lithium raw materials worth tens of millions of dollars. The raw materials went abroad. What could the local chief do in this situation? At the very least, demand compensation for environmental damage, or ensure that locals are hired for jobs. But as the residents of the UIS settlement found out, he just signed the agreement in exchange for a computer, 12 plastic chairs, and 1 hamburger. We were unable to get in touch with representatives of Sinfeng. Earlier, they reported through the newspapers that no officials were bribed, and that they were extracting lithium to investigate its quality. The advisor to the ministry, he resigned, rejected the accusation, and the local chief denied that he was bribed with a hamburger, but admitted that the chairs and computer were given to the community. In March 2023, local residents held a demonstration against the Chinese company. Francisco Tanesos, who lives in the village of Uis, says that the local chief sold their interests. She speaks in a rather rare Khoikhoi language with its characteristic clicking and popping sounds.
When the
Andrada Mining Company came here, at least they met with us and told us what they would be doing, even if they lied about there being jobs. And then the Sinfan Company came. They didn't meet with any of us, only with the chief, and he signed everything without us knowing. The chief sold us. Look at who Sinfan just recently hired. They hired outsiders from different regions who now come here and rent houses to live temporarily. They don't care about nature. They don't care that in those places are the graves of our relatives. 2 daughters of my grandmother are buried where the mine is. We don't know what's happening there right now. We can't get there.
Chige, civic roman, especially the Kakran, won't ask her. Tea one chin, but a hands on chingiramanta, and one
In November 2024, the Ministry of Natural Resources showed up in UIS for an inspection and confirmed that the Sinfin company is engaged in illegal lithium extraction. The ministry initiated a police investigation, but the company hasn't gone anywhere. In 2023, the ministry already tried to revoke her license. It didn't work out. Sinfin filed a lawsuit and won. So the ministry was conducting an investigation while the company continued its extraction. You can say whatever you want about white colonizers, but at least in their time, they built a primary processing workshop at the tin mine in Uis, where local artisans could bring their finds and earn more. This was in the last years, apartheid. Back then, instead of shantytowns, they built little houses like these, and it seems that people used to buy cars here, judging by the remains that are now sitting in the yards. Compared to these times, everything looked pretty good, one of the village elders told us. He refused to give his name.
I don't want to pit the governments of Namibia and China against each other, but let me explain what happened. There's nothing good about Sinfin coming to our area. In the past, companies at least provided jobs for young people. Drivers, for example. I got a job like that when I was young.
About 20-30 years ago. Was it better?
Yes. There used to be a primary processing plant where you could bring the extracted ore, and there too locals worked. Of course, life was better back then, not like it is now. People just extract resources and leave. No benefit to the community or the country. Nothing is left. Across Africa, the Chinese are offering scholarships to study in China. They have good mining institutes. If you go to Addis Ababa, there's the headquarters of the Organization of African Unity, built by the Chinese. If you go to Nairobi, the highway into the city was also built by the Chinese. Again, in Addis Ababa, they built the monorail. They have the goal of supporting countries in their development. Recently, we published a book about the exploitation of Africa's resources. There's a whole chapter about China. The conclusion is that Chinese companies are neither better nor worse than those that were here before them. There are also outstanding successful examples, as well as shocking examples of bad practices.
Hello. We'd like to see the local chief of traditional authority. Could we locate him somewhere?
If you check like this, on top that one.
That one, that brown one?
Yeah, the brown one.
That's his office?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go there. Thanks a lot.
All right.
See, that guy's like, what the fuck was that? Two Russians knocking on my door.
Yeah, right. That one, oh, to the left.
Welcome, you are welcome.
Thanks. We'd like to see the local chief if we can.
Oh, I was just here just to pop in.
Oh, he is.
And greet my headman,
right.
which is directly under chief. So I was also on my way out.
And when is the chief coming back?
I don't know.
He's sick. He's sick.
This is our secretary.
Let me hear first. Let me hear what you are here for.
We're filming about local communities, mining, how mining affects local communities, green transition, new mining,
Type of things.
Excuse me?
There are people. Yeah, we have different portfolios. There are people who are appointed by the chief, the councillors.
Right, okay, I understand. I mean, you have, you can answer within your competence, which is, okay, we can give it up. It's okay. Africa is independent and rich. Why is this wealth? Is it slipping through your fingers again? Because instead of white colonizers, it's now being robbed by its own. It turns out that the laws give significant rights to local communities. And who knew about this? Those who knew got rich? What happened in the village of Huis explains why in Namibia, a country with a middle income level, 400,000 people live on $2 a day, while 3,300 people are dollar millionaires. Namibia is fabulously rich and it has been independent for 30 years. But why hasn't it achieved the prosperity it could have expected?
We saw a large group of so-called elites with political connections who were making huge profits but weren't sharing anything at the lower levels. Maybe we took a wrong turn here. But I think we've learned a lot of lessons over the past 34 years. Many people want change. Recently, we established a sovereign wealth fund. That should help those who have been left behind. So our democracy is becoming more mature.
The paradox of independent Africa is that it has to rely on former imperialists, hoping that they will suddenly shed their habits and start showing awareness. That's unlikely because they'll be immediately devoured by less conscious competitors.
Africans need to achieve a fair distribution. Profits. We often see that the lives of local people only worsen because of extraction. Rivers are polluted, the fishing industry is destroyed, and the land is ruined. Crime and prostitution are coming to these countries. We need proper management of extraction. Proper management should be implemented not just in African countries. This needs to be addressed at the international level.
It's amazing how the system reproduces itself even in the 21st century. Independent Africa is going in circles just like during the Golden Diamond Rush. Resources are given away for next to nothing. Mines dominate people's lives. Poverty breeds new poverty. The power of money paralyzes and corrodes the government. And then the government starts to pay attention to the main asset, the land. And it is usually still in the hands of white farmers. But that's a separate issue. It's a huge topic. And we'll talk about that in another story.